we are going to talk about how to do a low or no spend month, particularly as we're going into a new year. People are thinking about their finances more. I know I am, like in December, January, I'm always sort of wrapping up this year financially, and then I'm looking ahead and trying to think about what I want to accomplish in 2025. So I just thought this was good timing for this particular video. It's gonna be super casual, a little chatty. I'm gonna talk about my experiences with low and no buy, and then also kind of just walk you through a few steps that you can take to prepare for one. So feel free to sit, chill, relax. I've got my little cup of kombucha, so have a cup of tea or coffee with me and let's chat about no buys. So I was someone who previously thought that low buy and no buy challenges were just too restrictive for me and I just wouldn't be able to achieve them. So I kind of just ended up not doing it because I was scared to fail, and I kind of shied away from them. And then last year in January, I sort of accidentally did a low spend month. And the reason it was accidental was because it was just sort of like a happy byproduct of making other good lifestyle decisions. So I was doing dry January, so my spending in the alcohol category was zero. I was focusing on cooking more at home and not really eating out. So I also just ended up saving a lot in the restaurants category. And there were a couple other categories that were quite similar. So I ended up saving hundreds of dollars that month from sort of just accidentally doing this low spend. So I thought it would be fun to actually give it an intentional try in 2025. And so I'm going to do a low spend January. Step 1, decide your rules. So the first thing you can do is really just figure out whether you want to do a low buy or a no buy challenge. I am typically not someone who does very well with restriction. If you are the same, you might do better with a low buy, but a lot of people are drawn to the discipline that is required for a no buy. They really want to either save aggressively or they really want to decrease their consumption, in which case a no buy might be appropriate. And it also can be easier to keep track of because the rules in a no buy are just more straightforward. Like what you are allowed to purchase is more cut and dry. Okay, so let's talk about what low and no buy challenges are. Low and no buys are pretty much exactly what they sound like. These are not misnomers. No buy challenges, and this can be any period of time that you want. Some people do it for a day or a week. You can do it for a month. You can do it a year. So I will use these things interchangeably, but ultimately you can decide how long you want to do the challenge for. A no buy is exactly how it sounds. So you can buy essentials. You should continue to pay your rent and mortgage. You should continue to pay your bills, your utilities, your cell phone. You can buy groceries, pet care essentials, things like that. But really every other discretionary category is off limits. So that means no coffees out, no dining out at restaurants, books, entertainment, clothing, probably most beauty and makeup products. And I'm sure there's a few other categories that you can think of that you would count as discretionary spending. Those would all be out in a no buy. Now, depending on how long you're doing the challenge for, you can determine certain rules for what you are allowed to buy during the challenge and what kinds of things you are allowed to replenish. So let's say you're doing something like a no buy month. You might not run out of anything, like that just might not come up during the course of the challenge. But if you do a no buy year, you probably are going to have some rules around what you are allowed to replenish because you are going to run out of things like makeup and skincare products, because you might find yourself having to replace a pair of running shoes. There might be certain articles of clothing you need to replace and that kind of thing. Low buy, again, is what it sounds like. Maybe you're not completely restricting your spending down to zero in these categories, but maybe you're just making a concerted effort to diminish your spending. So if you are someone who, for instance, buys a coffee out every single day when you go to work, and so you've done the math and you are realizing that this is costing you, I don't know, let's say like $30 a week. Okay, so you're spending about $120 a month on coffee. You might not want to restrict this category entirely, but maybe the change is that instead you are going to make coffee at home most days, and then you are still going to get a coffee out every Friday as a little treat. And you can do that for multiple different categories, and you can do it in a way that feels reasonable for you. You know yourself best, so you know which categories you are going to struggle with. Like, I never buy coffee out. For me, it's maybe once every couple weeks, sometimes even once a month. I really only do it if I'm meeting up with a friend, sometimes when I'm doing errands, but I am lucky enough to work from home, so it's just not something that really comes up in my day-to-day that often. So I know that's a category that I don't need to focus on, but there are a bunch I do need to work on, and we are about to get to that. Okay, so my categories for January are going to be no entertainment, no books, which has been a really bad category for me the last few months. I don't know what happened. I am a library girly. I am so good about using my free little libraries. I don't typically buy books. This has been new behavior. I don't know what's going on, but I want to nip it in the bud in the new year and cut this spending out completely. I actually think I might try to not buy any books at all in 2025. We will see if that is possible. I will revisit that later, but I know that I can at least do it for a month. Other categories on the table are no household decor, other household items like that, no candles, no clothing, no toys or fun miscellaneous things for Lexi, no toiletries or beauty products unless it's to replace something essential that has run out. So for instance, I would be allowed to replace like my sunscreen, but I have actually done a quick check and I shouldn't even be running out of anything. Any of my moisturizer, shampoo, conditioner, I should be all squared away. So that means that really I should not have to buy any toiletries in January. And I kind of prefer that. Just that way I don't even need to make the decision. It's just a no toiletries in the month of January. And then finally, the last category that I'm not completely sure about, I don't think this is going to be a $0 category, but it's going to be a lower spend category, and that's alcohol. I have done dry January for probably the last at least like 3 years in a row, I want to say. I definitely did it the last 2 years. I think I did it the year prior. I also do sober months regularly throughout the year. I actually don't know if I'm going to do dry January in 2025. I'm still deciding on that, and that's why I'm not sure if I'm going to make this a $0 category. I might do like a dry-ish January where I still take it really easy, but I might, have drinks once or twice. So I still expect and am planning for this to be a lower spend category than usual. I think usually this category runs about $150, $200 a month for me, and I am planning on keeping it around probably $50. Restaurants and dining out is another one where I'm not going to do a complete $0 no spend challenge in that category, but I am intentionally decreasing it. Normally that category is around $200, $250 a month. I am planning on decreasing that to about $50. Step 2, do an inventory. In this step, you are going to do a quick audit of your household, checking things like household supplies, so paper towels, dish soap, laundry detergent, and then also things like toiletries and beauty products. So shampoo, conditioner, body wash, things like that. Things that would be considered essentials. And I don't think this is necessary by any means. I just like doing this step because for me, I'm not suggesting going out and like shopping in bulk for all of these things and stocking up, but I will say, I think it is helpful to at least just make sure that you are going to be relatively stocked for the duration of the challenge. And the reason for that is because then it just avoids that shopping. Even though those things are considered essentials and you are allowed to buy them, I just don't want to deal with the temptation of purchasing them. So for example, if you are logging onto Amazon to get paper towels or dish soap, now you're on Amazon. Or if you need to pop into Target to get toilet paper and laundry detergent, now you're in Target. You know what I mean? So for me, I just like to do myself a favor. It's sort of, I just think of it as helping my future self out by being prepared and reducing the number of instances where I'm going to have to shop at all, because I find shopping tempting. And if I am on Amazon or if I am in a store like that, I know that I am much more inclined to grab a couple other things that I really shouldn't be buying. So I actually think it's really helpful to be prepared Obviously, if you're doing a no or low spend year, it might be harder to stock up on everything. You are going to have to plan for the reality that you are going to have to replace things at some point. But for 1 month, I think it's pretty doable to make sure you're stocked up for 1 month of essentials. Step 3, get your points and gift cards ready. I don't know if other people consider this like cheating. I definitely don't. I think it's just a good strategy. I bank things like my loyalty points and gift cards for when I am doing a low spend challenge. So for instance, in Canada, we have a program called PC Optimum, and these are points that you can get by swiping a loyalty card at a whole group of different stores that include like grocery stores, drug stores, and so on. And so I have been collecting and banking these points for the last 7 or 8 months. And so now I have accumulated 230,000 points, which is equal to $230. So that's $230 that I can redeem for groceries or at the drugstore this month. So I am setting those points aside specifically to redeem in January. And that way I can also reduce my spending in my groceries category. So even though that is allowed spending and you of course are allowed to buy groceries during this challenge, I still think it's nice to try to decrease your spending generally overall as much as you can. And so I will be able to take my grocery budget, instead of being about $450 to $500, I can bring it down to like $250 to $300 and still ultimately save an extra $200 in January, which is great. Similarly, I do this with gift cards. If you have gift cards sitting in drawers, things that have come in as gifts over the course of the year that you haven't redeemed yet, things just sitting in your email inbox, this is the perfect time to use them. For example, I got a $15 Starbucks gift card a few weeks ago. I think it was for attending a webinar and they sent it as a thank you. And then a lot of credit card points you can actually redeem for gift cards. So that is part of my strategy as well. I accumulate those points over the course of the year and then I redeem them for gift cards at strategic points. So I have actually already redeemed some of my RBC points for a $50 Uber Eats gift card and a $50 Amazon gift card. That $50 Uber Eats card is going to be what I use for ordering in for the month of January. So it still lets me order in once or twice, but beyond that, I'm really not planning on eating at restaurants. And then the $50 for Amazon will allow me to replenish other household supplies, things like that that come up over the course of the month that I might need, but that way I can replenish things without actually having to spend any money. And I have the limit placed on me of knowing that I only have this $50 pool to buy things like hand lotion or dish soap or whatever might come up. Step 4, make it fun. So these challenges should not all just be about restriction and depriving yourself. They should actually be fun as well. And there are a few different ways that you can make these challenges fun. So I'm going to give you some examples of how I am doing that for my own low spend month. Books are a good example, I feel like, because it's a category where you can do a lot of interesting things. So I'm really just setting myself a challenge and it kind of becomes a game to find books in interesting ways. So I think I'm going to sit down and put some fun books on hold at the library, and that way hopefully they'll be ready in January. I'm going to make a conscious effort to go to the free little libraries in my neighborhood, scope those out, try to find some new books there. But I think you can do this in a million different ways. Like I think you can do a book swap with friends or neighbors. There's also those challenges where you wrap up the books you currently own, like literally in wrapping paper, and then you number them and you use like a random number generator or you pick a number from a hat and then that's the book that you read and unwrap. So it's a fun way of making sure you're going through the books that you already own too, which like God knows, I already have plenty around my house that are still on my TBR. So I think, yeah, if you kind of just turn it into like a fun game or challenge to use the things that you already have or to go find new books in new and interesting ways, then you can actually, then it kind of gamifies it and you can actually have a lot of fun with it. The other thing I'm doing that I think goes really nicely with a low or no buy year is a project pan. I actually made a whole other video about that, so please go and watch that if you're interested. But I wanted to bring back a project pan because I know those were big a while ago, but for me personally, it was just a good time to do it. I had found that I was really accumulating beauty products and not using up the things I had. So I really wanted to make a conscious effort to use up makeup and skincare products that I already owned before I bought anything else. So I've already started the project pan, but these typically take months. And I think it was really good preparation for me going into the low buy month in January, because now I have like a basket of all this skincare and beauty that I am trying to use up. So in January, when I'm not allowed to buy any of these kinds of products, I have this basket of things I already own that I can use up. So I have fun things like eye masks and face masks that I'm excited to use. And that is kind of a way of making the no spend period feel fun. And then you also get the dopamine hit of like using up something that you have and then being able to declutter your makeup drawer or your medicine cabinet or whatever. So it's just kind of like a win-win-win. And I think project pans are also another way of making a low or no buy year more fun. Step 5, unsubscribe, log out, and delete. So unsubscribe from marketing emails, from clothing brands, from skincare brands. Just get all of that out of your email. Take some time to sit down and do that a couple weeks before your low or no spend challenge starts. And also take some time to log out of Amazon, to log out of certain websites that you know you need to log out of, and also to delete any tempting apps from your phone. So whether that's DoorDash or Uber Eats or the Amazon app, again, you know yourself best, so you know what you are going to find tempting. And if you want to be successful at this challenge, you know which apps you need to get rid of. So I strongly suggest taking some time to do that because I do think it increases the chances that you will be successful. And if nothing else, it just adds that extra barrier. Like, yes, you can re-download the apps, but it just adds that extra barrier and that step where you have to go, okay, do I really want this? Or do I really want this bad enough? So it kind of just slows you down and makes you a little bit more mindful if you are going to purchase something. Okay, and finally, step 6, this is the most important step. You have to figure out how much you're going to save and make a plan for the money. I find that even when we're making an effort to do better with our money, unless we have a very specific action to go along with it, whether it's making an extra debt payment or specifically transferring that money into a separate savings account, the money just ends up kind of disappearing if it just stays in your checking account, and we want to avoid that. We want to make sure that at the end of your low or no spend challenge, that you have something to show for it. And so this is pretty easy to do. Like if you already track your spending, or if you use something like You Need a Budget or Quicken or Every Dollar, then you will already have a record of your spending over the last few months. So I suggest just picking a period like the last 3 months. That's what I'm using. And I'm taking an average of my spending in that 3-month period in certain categories like restaurants, alcohol, entertainment, and things like that. So kind of like that coffee example earlier. So you will go through and do that for all the categories that you are including in this challenge. So for clothing, let's say you spend about $100 a month on clothing. Okay, and you're gonna spend $0 this month. Okay, that's a projected savings of $100. So you're just gonna go through the different categories like that and come up with a projected savings. It might be a few $100s, it might be $500, it might be $1,000. Some people can see really impressive savings when they do these kinds of challenges. And I find that seeing that number can be really motivating, and it can be something that you can refer back to during the course of the challenge to motivate you. Because like, how good is that if you have an extra $500 to put towards your credit card debt or your student loans, or to put towards your emergency fund, or whatever it might be, whatever goal that is most important to you right now. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you are thinking about doing a low or no spend challenge, and if you have any other questions about them, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.